So you should, from the YouTube page, should be able to hear some sound now. 3, 2, 1. So you should, from the YouTube page, should be able to hear some sound.
Can you hear clicks?
Yeah.
Hi everyone, so here we are. Now I'm gonna get my link there. Perfect. So, can you, feedback. Can you see and hear me? Is the audio clear? I'm relying on you to let me know if there's any issues as I go along. There's also quite a long delay. Yes, both clear. Perfect. Okay, just let me do a thing. So I'm going to send you all something. Two things actually. Copy link. Okay, so I've just posted in the chat a link that I want you to click and download. What I've just given you is a template folder structure that we're going to talk about for today's session. What today's session is all about, and this might be, depending on your experience with Premiere or not, this might be either really boring as hell or really interesting. But basically, this session is all about the foundations of Premiere. So not necessarily talking about the tools or the timeline or the sequences or anything like that. We're talking about how to set up a project from the word go. How to manage your files, how to sort out your scratch disks, what I would consider essentials foundation stuff. And what I've done is I've sent you this link. During the course of the session, I'm going to give you another link as well, but this is a series of empty folders, basically. Now, I won't get too much more into that. I'll begin my intro and I'll show you some slides, and then we can get going. Any problems, let me know, and just stay vocal. Keep me going on the YouTube. Say hello, and if there's anything funny you want to say or any jokes or just because otherwise I'm just literally talking to myself. Anyway. Welcome to ScreenSkills, Premiere Pro Essentials. This is the third course I've done for ScreenSkills. I'm improving it all the time, but so far the feedback's been good, so hopefully people are enjoying it. Some comments and housekeeping about the session. So as I mentioned, sessions will begin and finish, I use the fancy word conclude, on Zoom. The training portion will be on YouTube, which is where we are now. Please feel free to ask questions at any time via the YouTube chat window. It's sometimes a little difficult to address questions because normally it's hard to share screens and stuff. But do ask, because I'm willing to help as best I can, and usually I can answer them, not always. Headphones are very much recommended. So I mean, most of you are probably using headphones anyway, but there's going to be a session that's all about sound and how to fix sound and improve it and stuff. If you're not using headphones for that, it's really quite difficult, especially if you're listening through a laptop or whatever. These YouTube sessions will be recorded, and you're going to have links sent to you to watch again at any time. So don't stress too much about taking notes and stuff, because you'll be able to watch these again. Also, the slide deck that I'm going to use, I'm going to send to you as well. And I'm going to send some training files over to you so you can follow along and practice once the sessions are over. You shouldn't need those training files today. The actual folder itself is around about 4 gig. But I'll get those to you during the course of this session, and you can download them and have them ready for tomorrow. Okay, so a bit of an intro about me. My name's Alex, and I'm an Adobe certified instructor, but I'm also a freelancer. And I've worked on a lot of stuff, and like my core skill is I'm not hearing anything. Is anyone else not hearing anything? Melina, help Melina out. Is everybody out? Is the sound gone dead? I think everything I can see at my end is working. Are you guys all hearing me or not? I'm going to assume my audio was fine. Yeah, Melina, so it could be speakers on your laptop, maybe, or maybe you've got YouTube muted. Can you hear anything else? Like try another video or something? Yeah, so everybody can hear Melina. The issue's at your end, I'm afraid. So check your sound. Okay, so yeah, these are some of the clients that I've worked with over the years. Sometimes in the capacity of doing workflow consultancy or training, sometimes as an editor, sometimes a camera operator, that kind of thing. So it's quite a broad spectrum of things that I do. But my core skills are Premiere. I mean, I've been using it since like '98, back when it was right rubbish and everyone hated it. Right to now, it's like the most probably prolific edit suite apart from non-linear editing application, apart from Avid. So there's really two big players, there's Avid and Premiere. Anyway, the one that I normally talk about because it was quite a big thing was the World Cup. So I was in Russia for 6 weeks working for HBS, and like there's a few things pointing out. So I was helping up set up the edit suite. So this was a typical edit suite, typical offline edit suite in the IBC, which is the International Broadcast Centre in Moscow. That's St Basil's Cathedral, which was a really cool building. This, quite interestingly here, this is the Master Control Room, the MCR, for the World Cup 2018. And the way things are now, who knows when there'll be another World Cup in the same way. Until there's a vaccine, there's probably never going to be a World Cup in the same sort of vein, not with crowds anyway. And the Master Control Room is basically where all the feeds from all the games went. Just like the most incredible room to be in. How people keep on top of all that, I really don't know. But yeah, I was there as edit suite support manager. So we had 50 edit suites, and I was sort of looking after them to a degree. This is me doing some training at YouTube Spaces, which is the King's Cross, which is really cool. Again, the days of being in a room with people, it just seems so far away from how we are now. And as an editor, I've done stuff for the Premier League and I've done stuff for the BBC. Anyway, so the first thing I wanted to sort of talk about now that I've done my intro and you've got a bit of a background into what I do and who I've worked with, is a discussion about like online versus offline. So me very much, I'm an offline editor, and I thought when I'm describing this stuff to people, sometimes they go, "Oh, I don't get what you mean offline, online. What's the difference?" So I made this slide that shows you the difference. So as an offline editor, you're responsible for viewing and logging material, beginning shaping the edit and creating rough cuts and sequences, liaising with clients and stakeholders, getting the edit to its required duration, making the edit work, ensuring it tells a story, getting content sign off and locking the pictures. So that's generally what that'll be my bit, and then I'll hand it over to people that will be doing a color grade, or people that will be doing adding visual effects and sound effects. Another one online editors have to do is ensuring content is compliant, and compliant can mean a number of things. But sometimes in the context of broadcast, it's like if there's a person in the shot who hasn't signed a release form, then you can't put them in the show because they haven't given you permission to use their image. Other stuff like, if you've got branding, so if there's a Coke can in shot and it's a BBC, you can't use it unless it's been signed off. So it's all that sort of stuff. And then graphics on screen, and then creating all required delivery files and ensuring full broadcast spec. So I'm offline. This stuff, the offline bit excites me because I like taking a bunch of random clips and turning them into something. The online, less so, but the lines are blurred now because editors are doing pretty much everything. Anyway, 7 phases to a production. So I've got this slide here to outline the different phases that you go through when you work on an edit. And I show this slide because I often think it's very useful to be conscious of what phase you're in, because with editing, there's a lot to do. If you're creating a production, you're going to go through various different stages of an edit, and these phases are quite distinct from one another. For instance, there's no point zooming in there. We'll ignore phase number 1 because that's not necessarily, as an editor, your job. You might be a self-shooting editor, in which case it is your job. But anyway, that's where you acquire the assets. And phase number 2 is where you ingest and you organise and you store and you manage those assets. This phase, depending on who you work for and where you go, is absolutely key. And it might not be your job, but having an awareness of it is extremely important. basically ingest and organize and store. That's when you get the clips, you've got to put them somewhere. But it's not just clips. You might have music, you might have logos, you might have fonts, you might have production paperwork, you might have stills, you might have motion graphics, still graphics. There's so many different elements that you'll work with when you do an edit, and managing those is absolutely critical. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about phase 2. And then as we go through the rest of the week, we're going to cover phase 3, making the rough cut, and then phase 4, the finesse. So basically the rough cut is where you put all the stuff, in some sort of order, and then the finesse is where you get those clips and you sort of bring them to duration and you get them ready for the client to see, that kind of thing. And these two phases are pretty much interlinked. When you've got your edit somewhere near the way you want it, you're going to do the audio, and we're going to cover that as well, and that's on Wednesday. And then you've got graphics, and you've got colour, and you've got online. And obviously we've just discussed sort of the online, what that is, and then you've got delivery. So we're gonna do a light touch on all of this stuff because we've only got an hour a day, 2 hours on Thursday, but it's really I'll give you as much as I can in terms of tips and that sort of thing. Anyway, that's what we're gonna do. So phase 2 is what we're talking about today. Now, let me in the chat. Let me know if anybody recognizes a situation like this. This slide is hard drives. This is a case that I've got full of hard drives. So some of these are 2 terabyte, 4 terabyte, 512 meg. Some of them are like, that one there, I think that's 256 meg. Some of them are big, some of them are small. But the problem is, when you work with video, more and more and more and more and more of it, you just shoot more and more and more of it. And the struggle is, like, what do we do with it? Where does it go? Like, how do I cope with ever-growing resolutions? And, I mean, it's really hard, really, really hard to get a grip on this. So I'm seeing Lewis has put a comment and he's saying, yeah, he gets it. I mean, any editor in the world will look at this and go, yeah, I get it. Because... I mean, I've been a freelancer for, I don't know, maybe 15 years now. And these drives here, these represent like 15 years worth of work. Now, as a side note, let me know who's on Mac, who's on PC. So if you're on PC, tell me, say I'm PC. And if you're on Mac, tell me, say I'm Mac. I'm a PC. I use PCs. I like Macs. They're okay. And I've got one, and I mainly use it for emails. But when it comes to production work, I use PCs because, like everything at the World Cup for HBS was PCs. Because, like, pound for pound, you can't beat the value that you get with a PC. And Macs, I mean, the new Mac Pro, you can get a powerful Mac Pro. You didn't used to be able to. The old Mac Pro, the trash can, the ashtray, you couldn't really fit much stuff in it because it was tiny. But now, the new Mac Pro, it's all good. If you're willing to spend 30 grand, you might get a half decent system. But anyway, the reason I mention it is because there's a few apps that I use. I'm going to share an app that I use. I'll share the link now. This is a PC application. I don't know what the equivalent Mac is. But what I've shared here is an application that allows me to create an image, an HTML image of every single one of these hard drives. So if at any point someone says to me, right, what's on this drive here? Well, I've given them a code. So SN, that's serial number 0011S. I can check what's on that. I don't think I've got it on my machine here, but basically, what you do is you double click it once you've indexed it and it launches up a browser that shows you all the files on that drive. You don't need to plug the drive in. Yeah, so there's a good question there. We're going to cover that, Nikki. We are going to cover that, but it's a very valid question. Snap 2 HTML, if you're on a PC, I highly recommend it. I don't know what the Mac equivalent is. I'm very sorry about that. I'm sure there will be. It might even work on Mac, I'm not sure. But yeah, honestly, like big pro tip that from me. Snap 2 HTML. So what I'm going to suggest is I'm going to move on to the next slide. And I'm guessing a lot of you are working on laptops, right? Tell me yes if it's yes to the laptop question. Are you on yet? Or have you got workstations, desktops, etc.? And the reason I bring it up is because if you're going to take editing seriously and if you're going to do it for any sort of big jobs, you need to try and get the best working environment you can for the system. And what you can see here on this slide is three hard drives, right? Now, my main edit system, which is in this room, but I don't train from it, has quite a few hard drives in it. And those hard drives are all there to do different jobs. So my main workstation, drive number 1, the only thing on it is my operating system and my applications. That's it. So I've got Windows on it, and I've got all my Adobe apps and any other apps that I use, but that's it. Okay, so that drive is just left alone to do that particular job. Obviously, when you download stuff, they go onto the C drive, but by and large, the only job that drive does is OS and applications. It's also an SSD. It's an NVMe SSD, so it's one of the quickest ones you can get, and it boots up in about 15 seconds. It's quite nice. Then, in that system, I've got a second drive, which is also an SSD, and on there goes my media, so my clips, my stills, my music, anything that's related to any given project, that goes on this one here, right? So that goes on 2. Okay, so that's what that job is. It's purely that's what it does, right? So it's my media drive. And then the third drive, I'm glad to hear it, Melina. I'm glad to hear you got some audio. And then the third drive is for Scratch and Previews. Now, we're going to go through and talk about Scratch and Previews and what they are. But essentially, this setup means that each one of these drives has a specific job, and none of the drives are going to be working harder than they need to. So when you press play to play some media, if you need to write Scratch and Previews, you're playing from this and writing to that. So you've got like a circular throughput. It's if you can set it up like this, it's the best way to do it. Now, on that subject, I'm going to post a link for another application that I suggest you all get, and it's Post Haste Digital Rebellion. And I'll post this link, and I'll give you a moment to go and get this application. It's a free application. But if it costs 100 quid, or if it costs maybe, I think maybe more than 100 quid, it'd be a bit unreasonable. But if it costs 100 quid, I'd buy it. So, just posted a link to this application. It's a free application that allows you to build a template folder structure, which you can roll out at the beginning of every single project. And if you've ever done any editing before, and some of you have, I know there's various levels of experience on the group that are with us today, but you'll know that you get different kinds of files. You get graphics, you get, as I've said, you get clips, sound, voiceover, all that different stuff. So what Post Haste allows you to do is manage this and create a folder structure that you can roll out every single time. Now, let me send you another link. So I'll send you this again. So copy link. And I'm pasting this there. So what I've just sent now is my folder structure that I use, and basically it's this. Now let me show you what Post Haste looks like actually on the desktop. So on my desktop here, I've got it down here, and it's there. And let me just give you a bit of an overview about Post Haste. Now, when you launch it, it'll look like this. And what you'll see is there's 2 different tabs. So you've got the New Project tab, and you've got Templates tab. If you go over to Templates, you won't see some of the things that I can see, because these are ones that I've made myself. But let's say, for instance, if I show you one of the standard ones. So if we go photography, basically photography is it's reasonably more simple than any video templates that you'll see. So inside photography, you've got a folder for exports, final review. You've got Photoshop, I would call that projects. Production documents, you've got raw. And then maybe we go with motion graphics. So motion graphics is a bit more comprehensive. There's some more things there. But you can see if I go to mine, MCT template, MCT stand for Media City Training, you'll see that there's one that's quite a bit more comprehensive. So let me talk you through the thinking behind this folder structure. First of all, at the root level, at the top level of this folder, you'll see there's two folders. Now, each folder has a number assigned to it. So you'll see 01 projects, 02 media. If I open up projects, you'll see that each subfolder has a number assigned to it. And the reason for that is it makes filtering in Mac OS or Windows Explorer dead easy. So you can just click to ascend or descend, and you can get through straight away to the folder that you want. The next thing you'll also see is that everything's uppercase. Now, the reason for uppercase is, okay, so who's lost me? Blitz, where did you lose me? What's the deal? Message retracted. So, Blitz, let me know where did I lose you? That's why. So I've just said in the YouTube chat, I put a comment that I'm shouting, right? And you can tell I'm shouting because I've used uppercase, and that's the reason why these folders here are uppercase, because I'm shouting. I'm saying these folders are important. So anybody, for whatever reason, stumbles across any of these folders, they're going to see it's all uppercase and they're going to go, oh my God, it looks important. Cool, man. Good to hear. It's basically, I mean, looking at all these folders, it's easy to understand why you probably go, yeah, do I need all this? And perhaps you don't, perhaps you don't, but I just wanted to create like an ultimate list of folders, and if I don't need them, then fine, but if I do need them, then they're already there. Anyway, so the reason for the uppercase here is because like I said, I'm shouting. It's like, this is important. If I open up projects again, you'll find that inside PR, well, okay, so we've got PR, AE, AU, and MISS. Now, that MISS is miscellaneous, but this is where our project files are going to go. So we've got a location for Premiere project files, we've got a location for After Effects project files, and we've got a location for Audition project files. If there's any applications that you use different to these, then feel free to make a new folder. And let me close projects down. So that's the projects. Actually, let me just highlight another thing. So inside 01 PR, we've got a folder for active. So your active project that you're working on now is going to go in here. And inside 02, you'll see there's one for archive. Now, the reason for that is because it depends how long your project is going to live, but it can be useful to save as and archive older versions of a project. And then you've got 3 for autosaves. Now, I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk you through how to point your autosaves to go here, because it's really important. Now, I'm going to close my 01 projects down, and I'm going to open up 02 media, and I'm going to close these down here. This is how I have my media. So 01 is rushes. Now, rushes is like a legacy term for video clips. And it's if you work at any broadcasting place, they'll still call them rushes, and the older school generation like me, I guess now, call them rushes still. But this could be called clips or video or master clips, whatever, doesn't matter. But what goes in here is video. And if I open this up, you'll see that there's actually different kinds of video that you might work with. So number 1 would be native. Let's say you go out and shoot a day's worth of clips, and you want to work with those clips without any transcodes. You just want to work on the natives. Well, you would copy the contents of that card into here. Okay? If you've done any transcoding, if you need to change the format of any clips, you would do that in here. Proxies, Now, we'll talk more about proxies, but essentially proxies are like low bitrate versions of the original. And the reason we make proxies is so that we can play things back on, you know, lower spec machines. And for instance as well, I mean, like, you know, resolutions of videos is getting pretty bonkers now, but, you know, you can shoot 8K on a Red. Blackmagic have just made, there's a new Blackmagic camera out, which I don't think anybody was expecting, but I don't know if you've seen this. Blackmagic are famous for making bonkers cameras. So yeah, Blackmagic Ursa. I mean, look at the price of it as well. It's ridiculous. So they've made a camera now that shoots in 12K. Did anybody see that coming? Is anybody, you know, just crying out for an 8K, for a 12K camera? I don't know. Anything. I mean, Blackmagic do make good cameras. I don't want to disparage Blackmagic, but the challenges of the post workflow, if someone goes out and shoots a load of 12K stuff, become a lot greater because, you know, the size of the clips will be massive. And then you've got to, you know, you're not going to be able to work on 12K clips in full resolution, and no one's got a 12K monitor. It doesn't exist. So you're going to have to think about how you do it. Anyway, go back to here. So in that scenario where you've got, you know, you've got super resolution clips, you would probably make proxies. I'll close this down. We're going to go audio. Now inside audio, you know, audio is not, it's not simple either because you've got different kinds of audio. One thing that I need to make here is that I don't actually have one called for voiceover. So in here I'm going to go audio, I'm going to add a folder and I'm going to call it 05 voiceover. And then I've actually got two that are... But can you see can you see where I'm going with this? Because essentially what this allows you to do is make up a series of folders that are useful to you. Now, you might not need this many folders. You might think, well, I want it a bit more simple. You know, I don't want all this crazy randomness. So by all means, have a think about the productions that you work on and make your own folder structure. Now let me talk you through how to make a folder structure. If we together, if we've all got post haste open, and I'm hoping we have, any problems let me know. But we're just to talk you through how to make a new folder. We're gonna go add, and I'll call it ScreenSkills, and I'll say set. And what was it, 29th? We're getting near the end of 2020, everyone. I'm excited about that. Although I don't think 2021 is going to be much better. Anyway, once you've made a new template, you'll see it here. Select that template and you can basically go and add a new folder. Now, as an exercise, why don't we just make a few folders? So we say, let's say 01, and let's say projects. And I'm going to pick another one. I'm going to say 02 media. Now what you'll find is it's quite easy to drag folders into folders. So get it so it looks like that, because we don't want these folders in each, you know, we don't want media inside projects and vice versa. Inside projects, let's click this one and let's just make a simple one for Premiere. So we're going to go 01 Premiere. And then again, let's get Premiere selected and let's add another one and we'll say 01 current. And we'll make another one 02 archive. And we'll make another one 03 and we'll call this autosave. And once you've done that, that's this job done. We won't worry about any of the other applications. We'll just have Premiere. Now inside 02 Media, Let's add one and we'll call it rushes. And add another one, 02, and we'll call it audio. And I think we can probably leave it there. Now I'm just doing this as an exercise so you can have a go at making your own folder structure. But I really would encourage you to, either use the one I've sent you, which is like a pre-built one, and that is quite, if you go to a broadcast organization, they're going to look at that structure and go, yeah, that makes sense. And a lot of organizations are actually using something very similar to that. But yeah, or make your own. So I'm going to roll with this. I'm going to go over to new project, and what the new project screen allows you to do is come up with a bunch of different columns. So under project number, if I put 0001, actually I'd probably not better do that. So I'm going to put, maybe I'm going to put 9. And then client, now I'm just going to put ScreenSkills. And I'm going to say session 1. I'm going to use a hash symbol. And then the day, I think it's 29. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter. They're all days rolling into one now. And then my name, AM. And once you've filled those columns in, what you're going to find is down the bottom it gives you a file preview name. And basically this is creating a folder with all that information. So you've got the project number, you've got the project name. Sorry, you've got the project number, you've got your client, you've got the project name, you've got the date, and you've got the username. Now, can you imagine the benefits and the power of this if you work on edits every day? Because it allows you to have a certain level of consistency, and it allows you to come up with a sensible naming structure so you won't get lost, so you won't lose material, and it's just going to help you a ton. It's going to help you a lot. To preface what we're about to do, I have a good tip. So if you're working as a freelance content creator and you're doing like branded content, let's say for instance someone gets in touch and says, can you do a video for me? Can I have a quote? I will always include the cost of a hard drive in the quote. A 2 terabyte USB 3 hard drive will cost you like 50 quid. So you include that in the quote. It's up to you whether you put it as a listed item, like hard drive for storage, or just sort of swallow it into a larger quote. But once the client approves the job, buy a hard drive, make a folder like this in post haste, and fill it with all the stuff, and then that belongs to the client. And it's really good because you can just sort of file it away, and if the client comes back to you with, please can I have a reversion, we need a different font or whatever, for whatever reason, it's there, and you can reversion it without any issue. Because what you want to avoid is having a massive case full of hard drives, unlabeled, with stuff everywhere. You don't want that. It's what I do now. I will include the cost of a hard drive, and sometimes you can give it to the client or you can keep it yourself. That's up to you. Probably best to keep it yourself. But what we're about to do as well is, if you make this folder, you've got to make sure you've got one exact duplicate somewhere else as a backup, ideally 2. So if you go through this process, now it's going to say here, create project. So I'm going to click create project. And it brings up a thing that says, right, where do you want to put it? Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, Charlotte, it might look very different. I've actually got it on my, I think I've got it on my Mac here. Let me see. It might be, it shouldn't be too different. Post haste, I don't actually have it installed here. Is anybody else using it on Mac? Can't comment on that right now because I don't have it. Yeah, Lee, it is a good idea. It works. It just helps you manage the storage issue, which is a nightmare. You know, there's no two ways about it. It is a nightmare. Anyway, I've got post haste now, and it's saying to me, where do you want to put this? I would never recommend doing this in normal times, but I'm just gonna put it on the desktop. Hit OK, and now I've got a folder that I've got a project that sees those folders now. And once you've got that, that's what I recommend. I recommend doing this before you even launch Premiere. And then for instance, if I've got a handful of clips that I shot over the weekend, or you know, production have just handed a load of clips to me, and it's my job to ingest and manage. I'll go, right, well, I've got clips. Here's a folder for rushes, you know, and I'll just put, maybe there's 2 days. I'll just put, and then this is me making folders in there. Perfect. This is just another sort of tip. If you're working on rushes and it's something that's going to grow, the project is going to go, try and subcategorize into different days or different camera formats. For instance, I actually did a job on Sunday, and on that job we had two FS7s, one of which was mine. We had an A7S. We also had, what did we have? We had an FS5, and I think there was some GoPro. So you see, like, how organized you should be, because it's a really bad idea to just throw all the clips in there without subcategorizing them into different things. So hopefully you get what I'm talking about, and you know, I'm almost preaching to the converted. I would hope, but what post haste does is it just encourages you to stay organized from job to job. And what I like about it is every time you launch it, by default it will bump your number up. So then you can track how many, you know, what project number you're on. So I said project 9, now it's project 10. So every time I make another folder using post haste, it will increment the number up by 1. It's really, really useful. There's quite a few broadcasters that I know that use it, especially when they're using Premiere, because this is the thing with Premiere. If anybody's got any experience of using like other applications like Avid, Avid's a lot more rigid about the way it does things, whereas Premiere really doesn't care. It's like, it assumes you know what you're doing, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because it's very easy to get lost with Premiere if you're not organized at the back end. So that's what this is all about. Okay, we made a post haste folder. Now, if you haven't done this, don't worry about it, because there's a few of us on this training, and you can watch these back. But if you've been able to make a post haste structure, then we're gonna launch Premiere, and we're gonna do a few things. So I've just realised that it's actually 4:45 now, so that means I've only got 15 minutes left. We're gonna launch Premiere together. Everybody's gonna launch Premiere, but I want to show you how to do a thing where you trash the preferences. Now, a word of warning. When you trash preferences on Premiere, you treat it like a fresh install, and it's a good thing to do if you ever move to a new system and you want the application to behave like it's a fresh install, because preferences are things that are personal, you know. So I might have a preference where a bin behaves in a special way, or I've got different clip labels, transitions take longer or shorter. All these things, they're sort of like set and forget. When you trash the preferences, it basically burns it all to the ground and starts again. But one thing it does do is it also will remove all of the projects that are in your window. So when you launch Premiere, if you've been working on it, you'll see recently used projects. Don't do this if you're not clear about where your projects are stored, because I did a training session a while ago where everybody at the start trashed the projects, and then there was a guy at the back and he like puts his hands up and he said like, does this delete your projects? I was like, do you think it would delete all your projects? Do you think that would be a good idea for the engineers to make an action that deletes all your projects? And he's like, well, I don't know where they are. And I was like, well, where did you save them? And he's like, I don't know where I saved them. And I'm like, okay. Knowing where you save your projects is really important. Yeah, that guy got a lot of stick that day because, you know, it was a big organization, and he's like, I don't know where my projects are. It's like mental. Anyway, we're going to trash preferences, but if you've got things on the go and you don't know where they are, don't trash the preferences, okay? Because I can't help you, or I can to a limited degree, but I don't want this to put you in a bit of a jam, okay? So with that said, we'll move forward. So yeah, we're gonna go, and I have my icon for Premiere down the bottom here. Now I'm on a PC, so I'm gonna hold the Alt key. And when I say Alt key, I've got some on the subjects of shortcuts. So your Alt key is this one here. Now if you're on a Mac, I'm zooming the wrong way. If you're on a Mac, your Alt key it's your Option key here. So we're going to hold that key and we're going to launch Premiere. So if I hold Alt and I'm going to click, and actually I've failed to do it because I was zoomed in. Close that again. Yeah. So if you've been successful when you launch Premiere, it brings up this little Windows dialog box, that says, are you sure you want to reset your preferences? Now, if you are sure and you're happy and you know where your stuff is, then we're going to hit OK. And what we've just done there is a thing that I recommend if you're coming to a new system and you want to make sure that you're not inheriting somebody else's preferences, because you know, preferences are weird. People can have the software behave in strange ways, you know, that they get used to, but you probably won't. Anyway, so once you've done that, the way that you know you've done it, the telltale sign that you've done it is that there will not be any recently projects in this part of this window. Now, the more that you use Premiere, the more you'll see this screen as a bit of an interruption and a bit annoying. And with every new version, they add new stuff for this screen. And when you've been using it as long as I have, it's like, I don't often use this screen. I normally go up here. So when you've got Premiere open, you've usually got access to these still. So these are like your top menus. And this is normally how I will make a new project, which is what we're about to do. So from here, if you go to New, you'll see that you've got 3 different things you can do. New project, new production, and new team projects. I'm not going to get into too much about what these are, but production is basically, I think, is going to be a game changer for Premiere. Because up until the introduction of this, Premiere was never going to get used on big stuff. I mean, yes, they have cut feature films on it. Yes, they have cut long-form documentaries on it. I've cut long-form documentaries on it. But there is a problem with Premiere when you start getting masses of files and stuff. Premiere's got an issue where it starts getting slower and slower and slower. And when you've got everything inside one project file, when you've got one project with, you know, tens of thousands of clips and tens of thousands of hours and stuff, it becomes a massive issue. So productions basically changes all that. Anyway, I'm going to get too much into it. We're going to go to new project, and it's going to open up the new project window. Now, there is a number of things you can do on the new project window, and there are a number of things that you actually should do. I'm interested to hear if anyone's got what options people have got here. So under renderer, you'll see that we're using the Mercury playback engine on this machine. Let me know in the chat. Let me know what you see. I think if you're on a Mac, you'll see OpenCL or Metal. If you're on a PC, most likely you'll see CUDA. basically what this is this GPU acceleration. Now, a GPU looks like this. At the World Cup, just to give you an idea about the scale, about some of the PCs we had, some of the machines that we used, oh, they've come down in price, yeah. Some of the machines that we used had these in. So this is one graphics card, right? It's got 24 gig of its own RAM. Yeah, so Mercury. Yeah, Mercury playback. Just trying some different organization. Yeah, Mercury Metal. So most likely what you'll see is if you're on a Mac, you'll see I mean, yeah, exactly. As long as you see in the Mercury playback engine, which there's a bit of an in-joke with the Adobe people, they call it the Freddie Mercury playback engine, which is not really very funny, but I'm a geek, so I find it funny. But yeah, some of the machines we had at the World Cup had 2 of these in. And Premiere was using them to help playback. Some of the machines we had there also had these in, Intel Xeon Platinum. So this was the CPU. Now this isn't. I don't think you can get these still anymore. But yeah, the CPU in the system was $4,000. I mean, yeah. One thing FIFA don't have a short of is money, although that might have changed now with the global pandemic, but I doubt it. Anyway, point is, you want to be seeing Mercury Playback Engine acceleration, right? Because that means your system is helping you play stuff back. If you don't have a graphics card that's supported, you'll see this. Okay, now, is there anybody in the chat that's seen this? Let me know, because what that means is it means the system you're using won't be supporting GPU playback, Freddie Mercury playback. So ideally you want that. Anyway, next thing. When it comes to making a new project, the most important thing is to give it a name. So for the purposes of today, we're going to say ScreenSkills, and we'll say session 1. And then the next thing to do is to choose the location. So under location, we're going to hit browse. And what you need to do when you hit the location is point it to, you're going to want to point this to where you made that folder in post haste. So I made mine on the desktop, so I'll go this PC and I'll go desktop, and we will point it towards where's that folder I made, ScreenSkills. Did I put mine on the desktop? I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, there it is. Now I'm going to put projects, Premiere, and I'm going to point it towards the current. And once I've selected current, I'm going to go select folder, and that now basically picks up my folder. So that's where it goes. Now you can see it there, and under location, that new location is there. Virtual hands up if anybody's changing this, like, because I have worked with people in the past who literally have just left this alone and never changed it, and that is not cool. Like, do not do that. Make sure your project's going in the right place. Where could you save the project if not in post haste? So you could just make your own folder, Charlotte, but you always, my opinion is that you want to put your project and your media in the same place. It's sort of like, try and go down the post haste route, and if you don't want to go down the post haste route, make yourself a template folder. Now let me show you what the project looks like. So I'm going to hit, in fact, I'm going to just draw your attention to these things, but I'll probably cover them tomorrow because I don't want to go over the allotted hour. You've got 3 tabs here in this part of your new project window. So you've got general, we've just covered that. You've got scratch disks. Now, by default, these scratch disks follow the path of your project. So now that you've made a choice of location, you'll see that all of the other things here change. Now, the only one I'm gonna suggest you make a change to is project autosave. So you'll see there that project autosave, it defaults the same as project. But if we go browse, and if you have made that post haste structure, go back to your wherever it is that you saved it, and then I'm going to go desktop. So mine is here, and I'm going to go projects Premiere, and I'm actually going to get the autosave location and click select folder there. So now what's going to happen is whenever I save, whenever I'm working and I hit Control S or Command S, my current project will be saved inside the current folder, and whenever it autosaves for me, my autosave will be saved inside this folder. And that's really important. Anyway, like I said, don't stress too much about it. I'm really only raising these things so you're aware of them. You'll be able to have another go at this when we share the session with you. But I just want to raise your awareness about it. Anyway, the other tab inside this new project window we will talk about at some point, but this ingest settings. Make sure this box is not ticked. That's all you need to do at this stage. Just make sure that box isn't ticked. That box, I really don't think ingest settings should be part of this menu. And you know, I have regular, not regular, but I have semi-regular conversations with the people who make this stuff. Because I've got a sort of direct line to Adobe, so I know a couple of the engineers because they was out in Russia with us. Anyway, once you've done those two things, we're good to hit OK. So let's hit OK. And we are now into the Premiere Pro user interface. But before I do anything more, I want to show you what a project files looks like. So I'm going to get a good shortcut for you. I'm going to hit Windows D, and that's going to bring me back to the desktop. I don't think there is an equivalent Mac shortcut, but I might be wrong. I probably am. I usually am. If there is a Mac shortcut for show desktop, then please post it in the YouTube chat, because I think that'll be helpful for everyone. I'm a big fan of shortcuts because I'm a lazy git, and I like things happening quicker, and you know. Yeah, I like shortcuts. Anyway, another really good shortcut is Windows key and E. So for those of you that are Windows users, if you press your Windows key and E, you'll see that it launches a Windows Explorer. And if you didn't know about that shortcut, then that is a game changer. It's amazing. Command F3. Okay, that's cool. Command F3, does that work? Yes. Command F3. Excellent, there you go. I've learned something today. Thank you, Lewis, that was helpful. Cool. So Command F3, everybody. And the laptop that I do the what's it with when I'm talking on Zoom, that's a Mac. It's a MacBook Air, which I love. It's great for that. It's great for that kind of thing. Okay, so anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Sorry. I'm going to go to my videos. No, I'm not. I'm going to go to my desktop. Desktop. Okay. And then I'm going to go inside that folder, and I'm going to go inside projects. And here is my project that I've just created. Now, if you go and have a look in the one that you've created, what you should find is that obviously Windows tells me that it's a Premiere Pro project. If I right click and go properties, you'll see that the file extension is PROJ. So this is a Premiere Pro project file. Look at the size of it. So under size here, it's 3 kilobytes. Now 3 kilobytes is tiny. I mean, you know, it's not even worth thinking about. But the more that you work, the more stuff you do, the bigger your project gets, the more sequences you have, the more media you bring in, the longer it goes on for, the bigger your project file will get. And if your project file gets to a point where it's like in the tens or the hundreds of megabytes, that is a problem, because it will take ages to save and it will take ages to load. So always keep an eye on the size of the project, always. And this is the thing about Premiere Pro Productions, because Premiere Pro Productions is a new way of doing things. When you start a production, essentially you have lots of projects all within the same production. And this is how the engineering team have basically dug themselves out of a hole to a degree, because they're making it behave a little bit like Avid now. So you can have, a project with hundreds and thousands of hours, but it will never grow. It will always be accessible. Anyway, if you ever have to do any sort of troubleshooting and a project isn't working very well, that's the first thing to check. Check how big it is. Anyway, we're coming to the end of this session, so I want to just cover off a couple of bits about essential preferences, and then we'll go back to Zoom, and you can ask any questions, and we'll put an end to the session, and I'll basically give you a bit of an insight about what we're going to do tomorrow. So, first thing to do when you're in Premiere is to get the workspace that's most appropriate to your situation, right? So under Window, we're going to go Workspaces, and we're all going to go to the Editing workspace. And we're just going to leave that there. Now let me just do this, reset to saved. Let me know in the chat if you've ever customized your own workspace, if that's something you've ever done, because that's the thing we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to start tomorrow with a custom workspace. And the next thing we're going to do, and the final thing we're going to do today, because I've sort of managed my time not that well today. Apologies about that, but we'll get through it. Don't worry. Anyway, on a PC, you'll find this option under Edit and Preferences, and on a Mac, you'll find it under this. I think it says Premiere Pro there, and you can get preferences from there. Anyway, we're going to go Edit and Preferences, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Autosave. Now look at the frequency of autosaves. By default, this software thinks that saving every 15 minutes is enough. Now, I'm interested to know what you think about that on the YouTube chat, but I actually think that 15 minutes is not often enough. I normally set this to 7. So that's the first preference you're going to change. 7 is it's a cliche, it's a lucky number. Is it magic number, lucky number, whatever the hell? Anyway, the magic number. But 7 minutes is a good trade-off between, getting it saved in regular enough where you're not going to lose too much work, but not too regular where it starts to be interruptive. And you've also here got an option, Save Backup Project to Creative Cloud. If you tick that and you're logged in as yourself on Creative Cloud, it saves a project in your cloud allocation. And as a Creative Cloud subscriber, I think you get a terabyte of storage, which is pretty good. So it's a way of Adobe basically. It's a bit of an upsell, really. Anyway, I say 7. You let me know if you think there's a better number, but for me, 7 works. And final bit we'll talk about is memory. So I want you to click memory and let me know how much RAM you've got in the system, because when you click memory does is it gives you a readout as to say how much RAM you've got installed in the system. So these systems, these training machines that I've got, they've got 32 gig of RAM in, and that's decent. That's we can work with that. 16 you can work with, but 16 is about the lowest I would suggest if you're going to do any serious video editing. You might have 8, you might have 4. I'd say like if you're at 4 gig of RAM, you're going to struggle because it depends on the resolutions you're working with and stuff, but ideally you're going to have more than 4 gig of RAM. So let me know. So there's 8 gig there, 8 gig. Yeah, okay. So 8 gig is about the limit. Any less than that and you're probably going to struggle. So 16. I mean, this is a fun exercise that I do sometimes. So I buy any PC stuff I get from here. Scan Pro, and let me go. I mean, obviously, stuff's expensive. You know, there's no getting around it. But you can build a system here. So 16 is okay. You're going to be good there. Let me go and video editing. So yeah, I think comfortably now systems can have 128 gig of RAM. And that's probably too much. But one thing you will, I mean, it's not too much. It's you know, you can't have too much RAM. That's a rule of thumb. Anyway, if you're on a system that's got less RAM, what you can do is you can click and drag this to the left or to the right to increase the amount of RAM that Premiere has. And if you ever get any issues, then you can optimize rendering for performance or memory. But yeah, we're gonna close off this session now. So I'm gonna fade down the YouTube, and then we'll go and speak on Zoom, because I've gone a little bit over today, and yeah, that I don't want to do that. I think that they have issues with the Zoom meetings and stuff. So anyway, that's today's session. Let's go back over to Zoom, and you can hit me up with any questions there. So see you in Zoom land. Here we go.